Morning and welcome to the August 22nd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Master Hearing. We got somebody's not silenced, I think. Again, good morning. This is August 22nd, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer meeting. I'm Pamela Jo Hatley and I will serve as a Land Use Hearing Officer today. Before we get started, if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. Also, if you have any devices that make noise, please silence them at this time. Again, I'm Pamela Jo Hatley, and I'll be serving as the Land Use Hearing Officer today. And I would like to introduce Mr. Israel Monsanto, who will introduce staff and any agenda changes or withdrawals or continuances.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Master. To my left, we have Carmen Mason, Development Services staff. Throughout the course of the meeting today, we will be joined virtually by various members of Development Services staff who will be rendering findings or recommendations on the various cases, and they will be introduced as those cases come up. We will also be joined virtually by County Attorney staff, Cameron Clark and Mary Dorman. We don't have any changes today in the agenda, so I can be ready to read for the continuances of withdrawals.
All right, would you, do you want to read the published continuances and withdrawals at this time then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item A1, variance application 220715, SL6 Hangar Court LP. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer. Item A2, variance application 220722, Larry Albitron. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer. Item A3, special use alcoholic beverage 220836, Bovary Altidore. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer. Item A4, variance 220843, Michael Brozdak and Christy Ansley. This application is being continued by staff to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer. Item A5, special use generic 220872, Davy Wright TSP Companies Incorporated. This application is out of order to be heard and being continued to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer. Item A6, special use generic 220993, Cambridge Christian School Incorporated. This application has been continued by staff to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer. Item A7, variance 221016, Johnny and Debbie Goodson. This application is being continued by staff to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer. Item A8, variance application 221065, this Covelli Family Limited Partnership 2. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer hearing. Item A9, variance application 221083, Simi. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer hearing. Item A10, variance application 221121, Lori Brantley. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer hearing. And the last one, item A6, special use alcoholic beverage 221135, 7720 Van Dyke Holdings LLC. This application has been continued by staff to the September 26, 2022 Land Use Hearing Officer, and that concludes our published land use LUHO withdrawals and continuances.
Thank you, Mr. Monsanto. All right, then before we proceed, I will read into the record the procedures for today's meeting. First of all, the agenda today consists of items that require a public hearing by a hearing master. I will conduct a hearing on each item, and will submit a decision within 15 working days after the conclusion of today's public hearing. My decision will be filed with the clerk of the Board of County Commissioners. The hearings today will be informal. I will ask questions related to the scope of direct testimony and may call and question witnesses as I see appropriate. I will decide all questions of procedure. I will take evidence, but I will exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in written form, and all testimony shall be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding of fact unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil court action. The order of presentation today will be as follows. For variances, Mr. Monsanto will call the case. County Development Services will have 5 minutes to present its report and findings. The applicant and the applicant's witnesses will have 15 minutes to present the proposal. Proponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments in support of the proposal. Opponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments against the proposal. Then county staff will have 5 minutes to present any amended findings or comments, and the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal and summation. For special use cases, Mr. Monsanto will call the case, then the applicant and the applicant's witnesses will have 15 minutes to present the proposal. County Development Services will have 5 minutes to present its report and findings. Planning Commission will have 5 minutes to present its finding of compliance or non-compliance with the comprehensive plan. And proponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments in support of the proposal, and opponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments against the proposal. County staff will then have 5 minutes to present amended findings or comments, and the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal and summation. The 15 minutes that are allotted for proponents and opponents is the total time that will be allotted among all persons who wish to speak. So if there are a number of persons who wish to speak, that 15 minutes will be distributed among them. You may assign a spokesperson to speak for you if you wish to represent your views, if there are a number of people who wish to present comments. When you come to the microphone today, please state your name and address for the record. The meeting is being recorded, so please speak into the microphone so your testimony can be heard and recorded. When you're finished speaking, see the clerk here to my right to sign in for the record. Now we'll hear from the county attorney's office for the procedures and requirements for appeal.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Officer. Cameron Clark, Assistant County Attorney. This Land Use Hearing Officer public hearing is for variance and special use requests. This is the time for interested parties to present evidence and testimony. Once the hearing officer has closed a case, the record of that case is also closed and no new evidence regarding that case may be submitted thereafter. Any decision by the hearing officer may be appealed to the Land Use Appeals Board. Should a decision of the hearing officer be appealed, the evidence and testimony that is presented at this public hearing shall be the only evidence that is subject to review by the Appeals Board. In reaching a final decision on petitions, the Appeals Board will consider only the decision of the hearing officer and the record that is made at today's public hearing. If an appeal is filed, the Appeals Board hearing shall consist of oral argument by the party appealing the decision, by county staff, and by any interveners, each of whom may be represented by legal counsel. The following shall have standing to appeal a decision of the hearing officer or to intervene in the appeal. First is the applicant. Second is anyone who appeared before the hearing officer, presented testimony or other evidence, and is adversely affected by the decision of the hearing officer. It is the role of the county attorney's office to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is allowed before the Appeals Board that was not presented to the hearing officer at today's hearing. If the county attorney will recommend that the Appeals Board disregard evidence or testimony that is outside the record made at today's public hearing. Any evidence presented to the Appeals Board that is outside the record created at today's hearing could jeopardize the legality of the Appeals Board decision, and the presenter of that evidence could hurt their own cause. The safest course of action then is to write down any comments that you make today and to repeat those comments to the Appeals Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, all testimony today must be under oath. So if you plan to speak, please stand as you're able and raise your hand to be sworn in. All of those online who wish to speak, also please raise your hand to be sworn in. All right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Monsanto, would you please call the first case?
Sure. On today's agendas, we don't have vested right cases, we have no fee waiver cases, and we don't have remands or reconsideration request cases. That will take us to section F of the agenda, site development variance request. The first case is variance application 22119. The applicant is Amanda Bishop Interplan LLC, Chick-fil-A Incorporated. The request is a variance to Land Development Code Section 60604C, buffer adjacent to right-of-way, and also variance to Land Development Code Section 60604E1, other perimeter buffer. And staff Ryan Joyce will present the summary.
Hi, good morning. This is Ryan Joyce, Hillsborough County Natural Resources. The applicant is requesting a variance from LDC section 6.06.04C, buffer adjacent to right-of-way, and LDC section 6.06.04E1, other perimeter buffer. The applicant's specific request, as shown on the site plan submitted on July 28th, 2022, is to allow for a reduction to the required buffer widths. Summary of the variance. Per LDC section 6.06.04C, a strip of land, a minimum of 8 feet in width, shall be provided between off-street vehicular use areas and the right-of-way. At least one shade tree per 40 linear feet and screening shrubs shall be planted within this perimeter buffer. The applicant requests a reduction in the required width. The applicant requests a 1.4 foot reduction for approximately 50% of the frontage. The second requirement, per LDC section 6.06.04E, a strip of land a minimum of 6 feet in width shall be provided between all off-street vehicular use areas and the property boundaries where these areas abut property boundary which does not front on the road right-of-way. At least one shade tree per 40 linear feet and screening shrubs shall be planted within this perimeter buffer. The applicant requests a reduction to the required width for the east, west, and south property boundaries. My findings are the east boundary would average a 3 foot reduction for an average of 3 feet. The west boundary would average a 4.4 foot reduction for a width of 1.6 feet. North and south boundary is undersized, therefore landscaping is also not the code, however it is existing. This section of causeway is a scenic urban corridor. The parcel to the west has an additional green space for landscaping, and the submitted site plan would require additional requirements to meet landscaping code requirements as there are deficiencies and will be addressed in site review. However, these deficiencies will not require a variance. And that is all.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. All right, is the applicant here?
Yes, good morning. My name is Nancy Carreras. I'm with Interplan. We are located at 220 East Central Parkway. That's in Altamont Springs, 32701. And I'm here representing Chick-fil-A. Our proposal will bring this, oh, I'm sorry. Did someone say something? Yep, I'll continue. So our landscape will require some updating, which we have coordinated with our landscaping architect. The reason being is we are trying to propose a traffic circulation upgrade to this site. This is just to alleviate the traffic circulation that is currently backing up onto Causeway Boulevard. With that, we are extending our dual drive-through to a single lane to wrap around our existing building There is a face-to-face canopy where you order the food. We are proposing to extend that to a single lane back-to-back to elongate the traffic circulation and provide stacking. This is just to alleviate the employees and the team members and the customers from the elements by providing this canopy. It's all a good thing. This is all for safety reasons. And with that, we will bring it down to a single lane over at the order meal delivery side, which will have a canopy as well. And that is to alleviate traffic and the elements, everyone from the elements, as well as we all know Florida can be very, very deadly with the weather. So that is the main reason that we're looking to upgrade this Chick-fil-A and alleviate the congestion on site by doing this drive-through modification and extending the existing drive-through circulation to wrap around the building and the site.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Carreras.
Thank you.
No questions for you at this time. All right. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in support of this request? Anyone here or online who wishes to speak as a proponent of this request? I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance? All right, I do not hear anyone. County staff, did you have anything further?
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
All right, and applicant, anything further?
No, not at this time. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. All right, this will close the hearing on variance 22-1119.
The next application in section F of the agenda is application F2, application number variance 221140. The applicant is Lelanja Kutreba. The request is a variance to encroach into the wetland setback and also a variance to accessory structures requirements. Staff findings will be provided by Ryan Joyce, and Christopher Granley and I will be available if you have any question with the accessory structure variance.
Hi, Ryan Joyce, Natural Resources. The applicant is requesting a setback variance to accommodate proposed detached two-story garage on a property zoned RSC 2. Variances are wetland setback per LDC section 4.01.07.b.4. No filling, excavating, or placement of permanent structures or other impervious surfaces shall be allowed within the required 30-foot wetland conservation area setback. The applicant requests construction of a two-story garage within the 30-foot wetland conservation area setback. The applicant requests a 10-foot reduction of the setback to allow a setback of 20 feet. There is an existing encroachment of 2,061 square feet into the wetland conservation area setback. This existing encroachment includes the home and other structures. This home was built prior to the inception of the Land Development Code, and the proposed new construction will be 239 square feet. The accessory structure setback per LDC section 6.11.04.c.1, accessory structures shall be permitted in front yards at twice the depth of the required front yard or 50 feet, whichever is less, and such structures shall not occupy required side yards. Per LDC section 6.01.01, a minimum front yard setback of 25 feet is required in the RSC 2 district. Therefore, the required front setback for the subject garage is 50 feet. The applicant requests a 9-foot reduction to the required front setback to allow a setback of 41 feet from the easterly property line along Holly Lane. The required side yard setback in the RSC 2 district is 10 feet. Per the site plan submitted by the applicant, the garage will be set back 11.3 feet from the northerly side property line. And then findings per LDC section 6.11.04, accessory structures which meet the primary building setbacks of the property zoning are permitted the maximum height allowed in the district. Per LDC section 6.01.01, the maximum building height allowed in RSC 2 district is 35 feet. According to the applicant, the proposed garage will be 31 feet 1.25 inches in height. That is all from staff.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. All right, we'll hear from the applicant.
Hello, I'm Lelania Kutareba. I reside at 19312 Holly Lane in Lutz. And my husband, Michael Kincannon, is online on audio video. And we are proposing a detached garage with a workshop and an office space, which is the reason for the second floor. We've had it designed so that it matches the home, so that it's fits with the property. This started in 2020 during COVID. We have a large family, 5 children between the two of us, coming and going. He likes to call our college students boomerangs because they come back and stay with us for a period of time. And so the house is very restricted in terms of the space. It is a house that's on stilts. So we currently, park cars under the house. We have a storage room down there where I have been officing since the start of COVID. And my husband is officing in our master suite closet. So we are very restricted in space because of the size of our family and the design of the property. When we first submitted for permit, we were asked to move the structure 1 foot back because we were in that front yard setback. So we did that. And then through a series of other discoveries, whether it was well, septic, we've had all kinds of soil samples done and so forth. We came to discover that we had a subdivision issue that was prior to us purchasing the property. And through that, we're required to do the wetland delineation line. And then that's when we discovered that it wasn't a 10-foot setback, but a 30-foot setback from the wetland. So now our structure, in order to accommodate what we need, is 20 feet. And so we decided to try to compromise and see if we could set back, encroach a little bit on the front and a little bit on the back to accommodate. So the structure's intended to provide us with vehicle space. Again, we have 3 that are already driving. So we have a lot of vehicles at the home to provide space for my husband's hobbies, which includes custom motorcycles. And we have a motorcycle lift under our home that can't be fully extended because the house is on stilts and that underneath space is too short. And then to accommodate the office space so that we can both get out of the closets.
Okay, I think I understand. Anything else you want to add? I don't have questions, actually. I've read your variance criteria responses. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think just that, we've made every effort to, it's a property that we really appreciate, being on the lake and having the wetland between the house and the lake. We, set the structure forward of the house thinking that we were trying to get as far away as we could, and just trying to make the most of what we have in that space.
I see. So you've adjusted to avoid setbacks and septic tanks and wetlands, and
There's no more space.
I understand.
And there's plenty of upland space, but it's not usable because of the location of all of the infrastructure.
Yeah. All right. If nothing further, I just need you to sign in with the clerk, please.
Okay.
All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Don't hear anyone. All right, Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, and applicant, you still have 5 minutes. Did you have anything further? Okay, nothing further. Thank you. That will close the hearing on variance 22-1140.
That concludes our cases in section F. The next section is section G, sign variances request. We don't have any variance request for signs. The following section is section H, variance request. The next item is H1, application number variance 22849. The applicant is Kendrick and Lisa Calwood, The request is a variance to lot development standards. Staff findings will be provided by Colleen Marshall.
Morning, Colleen Marshall, Development Services. The applicant's requesting setback variances to accommodate placement of a single-family dwelling on property zoned AS1. The applicant requests a 21-foot reduction to the required front yard setback to allow a 29-foot setback from the north property line and a 21.25-foot reduction to the required rear yard setback to allow a 28.75-foot setback from the south property line. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Marshall. I don't have any questions for you. We'll hear from the applicant.
Ronald Gifford, Gifford Homes, representing Kenwood and Lisa Callwood. Address 3790 Highway 60, Mulberry, Florida.
All right. Just need you to describe what the variance is for and the hardships that create the necessity of the variance.
Okay, and I'm a builder. The original purchase of this property and the design of the lot is a flag lot. So there's a road coming into this property and it opens up in the back. My original belief was that this flag would represent the front of the house, which in the permitting process, I found that was not accurate, that we had to face Joe King, the nearest road. So the placement of this house would not work based upon Joe King. This is a lot that was developed maybe non-conforming in the beginning. I don't understand all of the ins and the outs of how this became a lot. However, it's impossible to get this size home on this lot. I believe all the neighboring people in this little community would benefit. It's an upscale home, very nice home, and you know, the close and adjacent neighbors have been very excited about the process. We just can't make it fit on this lot based upon the 50-foot setbacks.
All right, thank you.
I think that's all that I could say.
All right, just need you to sign in with the clerk here then, please, Mr. Gifford. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this variance request? All right, don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance request?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Debbie Cobb. I'm here with my husband, David Cobb. We reside at 5613 Joe Mar Garvin Way. Previously was 5807 Joe King Road. I'm just going to read out some thoughts of notes that I've had in what Mr. Gifford was speaking about. We've always loved the peace that our neighborhood has brought us. Throughout the years, we've had a level of concern about the narrow roadway, which consists of Joe King Road and now being Joe Mar Garvin Way. We have a one-way in and a one-way out. So we are concerned about traffic. Daily traffic, weekly traffic of sanitation, postal workers, and emergency vehicles that we had often, maybe not often, but several times needed 911 assistance. My concern is if we opening up for this approval for this one single family home, or are we opening it up for potential subdivisions in the years to come? One of my questions is, and I'm not sure, I'll go until you stop me. Will future homes be grandfathered in up under the umbrella of today's variance? Or other homes that wishes to be a part of this small neighborhood? In that case, it would surely bring out more traffic activity. The peace that my husband and I have had for over 35 years. And I'm concerned about the decrease of property value. I know that Mr. Gifford said it will uplift the property, but what else would it bring on this one-way entrance? We're not trying to compromise on the dream house of anyone coming in. We just don't want it to open up with a subdivision, which could cause sleepless nights and days of aggravation. Thank you.
Ms. Cobb?
Yes.
Just a couple of questions.
Yes,
And while you were speaking, I pulled up the property appraiser's website so I could see the aerial and see
Yes.
where your property is.
Yes.
And it appears that you have, for your property, you're just adjacent to this property to the west.
okay.
You have a flag lot as well, don't you? So you have your own long driveway
Yes.
into your property?
Yes,
Is that the narrow road you're speaking of, or are you speaking of the public road to the
the
north?
public road of Joe King Road.
Joe King Road?
Yes.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And this application today, just so you know, what I'm considering today is just the setbacks for the subject property. That's all.
Okay.
And I'm not considering any subdivision.
Okay.
Anything like that would have to go through processes in the future to be considered by completely different processes.
Okay.
All right, this is just for this one property, the setbacks.
Okay, the setback. So that has no bearing on our property, meaning 5613 Joe Mar Garvin Way.
I'm not making any decision that would relate to your driveway or your property. It just relates to the subject property, the setbacks to build a house on that property alone.
Okay,
All right? Thank you, ma'am. Please sign in with the clerk here.
thank you.
Okay. All right, is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yes. I'm William Thomas, and I have the property at 5602 Joe King Road. And I was just listening to what you were saying, but I have some of the same concerns that the access to the property that you're talking about is Joe King Road, which comes right across my property. Matter of fact, if you look, my property is on both sides of the road, so it's really not a public road. We granted access for them to use that road primarily to go to the cemetery. And so my concern is, how is that going to affect our community now? I mean, getting to my residence, because currently the road is so small that when you try to pass each other, most of the time you're driving over in my yard near the hedge bushes in order to even pass. And so that's my concern. What are we opening this up for in the increased amount of traffic that's going to affect my home?
And Mr. Thomas, you're just to the north, is that correct? Across the street, across Joe King Road. And I'll ask staff to clarify. I believe Joe King Road is a public right-of-way. It may not be very well improved, but it is a public right-of-way, at least from what I can see.
I think if you go back and check, you'll find, matter of fact, they don't upkeep that because a few years ago, they tried to get an agreement between the property owners in order to make the road really legal. And Mr. Berry, who's on the west side of that, refused to do that. And so if you look back at the county records, you'll see that when they come to the intersection of Joe King and Branchwood, they no longer maintain that road.
Okay, and I see Branchwood is further to the north.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right. So your concern is the traffic?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional comments you wish to make?
No, other than the fact that, a comment was made that they had talked to the residents in that community, and nobody ever spoke to myself or my wife about this. We happened to see the sign way down the road, and it was because it was yellow. We went down to see exactly what it was about. But up to that point, we had no idea what was going on.
Did you receive a notice in the mail?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I have nothing further. Please sign in with the clerk here.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Don't see anyone else who wishes to speak. County staff, anything further? And maybe you could please also address the issue of Joe King Road. Is that a public right-of-way at that point?
Calling Marshall Development Services. According to our records, it shows that it's owned and maintained by Hillsborough County Public Works. Hillsborough County and maintained by Hillsborough County Public Works as a local road. Now, it does appear to be substandard, but it doesn't appear to be under private ownership based on our records.
All right. And Ms. Marshall, just one thing I wanted to clarify also. The front yard setback and this property, the subject property, the front yard is considered on Joe King Road, is that correct? Or is it Joe Mar Garvin Way?
Joe King. So with a flag lot, it is required by code to be oriented to the closest road, and which would be Joe King Road. And
is the front yard setback considered from the main portion of the lot or from the entrance of the flag lot?
Well, from the main portion of the lot. So when you have a flag lot, because you can't actually put any structures within that flag stick portion, it's the same, the yard orientation is oriented towards the closest road. So in this case, the northern property lines become the front property lines, and then the setback is from those front property lines.
All right, thank you. That answers my question. Anything further from staff? No. Okay. Applicant, did you have anything further you wish to? Did you wish to address some of the issues brought up by the residents, neighbors?
Roland Gifford Homes. Do we need the address and all that again?
No, sir.
Okay. This property was developed prior to my purchase. The first lady who testified is the daughter of the original owner and the one who subdivided this and approached me about the purchase of this property to build custom homes on. Mr. Garvin is not here, but I think if you had asked Miss Debbie to step back and testify on this behalf, he asked me, not under a written contract, but under a verbal contract, please not to put mobile homes in there. If we were to adhere to this lot, it would leave this in a position where the only type of home that could fit on this property would be very narrow and undesirable for this community. There's really nothing that, when this was divided originally, always designed to use Sam King as the entrance and exit of this property, that's when the objection should have happened. But
Okay.
in my opinion.
You said Sam King, you mean Joe King, right?
I'm sorry, Joe King, yes.
All right.
So I don't know if she can be called back up, but certainly in the development of this, her father and her they're neighbors. They're right there beside each other. It was always in the design of this, and quite sure she wouldn't want to settle for a mobile home instead of this house.
Okay, I understand. And so it's your testimony that if the setbacks variances are not granted, then it would be a very narrow building area, and the only thing that would work would be something like a mobile home because of the space.
That's right.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
Anything further?
That's all.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, that's it. Then this will close the hearing on variance 22-0849. That's fine.
Our next item is item H2, application number variance 22-0955. Staff findings will be provided by, the applicant is Timothy Healy, and the request is a variance to lot development standards. Tanya Chapela from staff will provide staff findings.
Good morning, Tanya Chapela, Development Services. The applicant is requesting setback variances to accommodate the proposed addition for a single-family dwelling on a property zone RS6. Variance number 1 is per the Land Development Code, Section 60101. The required minimum rear yard setback for property zone RS6 is 25 feet. The applicant requests an 11.4 foot reduction to the required rear yard setback to allow a rear setback of 13.6 feet from the south property line for the proposed addition, excluding the chimney, and a 14.3 foot reduction to the required rear yard setback to allow a rear setback of 10.7 feet from the south property line for the chimney. The last variance is for the Land Development Code, Section 60101, which required a minimum side yard setback for the property zone RS6 of 7.5 feet. The applicant requests a 0.4 foot reduction to the required side yard setback to allow a side yard setback of 7.1 feet from the east property line for the proposed addition. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll hear from the applicant now.
Good morning, Jamie Mayer representing the applicant from the law firm Hill Ward Henderson, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700, and I have been sworn. We have a PowerPoint presentation we'd like to show. Just gonna provide a moment to load that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just to restate, as Ms. Chapela correctly explained, this is a request to reduce the rear yard setback from the 25 feet to 13.6 to edge of the new structure, 10.7 feet to the edge of a chimney. And to reduce the side yard setback because the house as built is ever so slightly skewed relative to the boundary line. So the side yard setback would go from 7.5 to 7.1 on the east side. Essentially, this is an expansion of an older home in the only viable place to do so in the home, and therefore relief from the code is required in the form of a variance. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's the existing structure, aerials, and also a view of the structure from the area that's going to be expanded. This house is outdated simply in the post-pandemic 21st century Tampa, and it is outdated relative to the surrounding community in particular, as you'll see. People spend a lot more time at home now, and people need home offices more than ever because a vastly greater number of people work from home than ever before. And this is a way of life that is here to stay in Tampa and everywhere else. Now, this lot was platted in 1969 at 75 feet in width and 125 feet in length. Once applying the RSC6 setbacks, that leaves about 75 feet of buildable area lengthwise. The home was constructed in 1970 in almost the exact center of the property, so there's really no wiggle room to expand absent relief. The floor plan, and I have been in the house myself, is outdated. It fails modern day living standards, especially post-pandemic, as I mentioned. And the problem is that the layout reflects lifestyles from decades ago. It is compartmentalized, and it certainly reflects a time when a home office or expansion was not even a blip on the radar. So the only place in the house that can be expanded is the place the applicant proposes today, which I'll show you on the site plan. The existence of a garage forecloses expansion to the northwest. Front door and entry foreclose expansion to the northeast. And that area is already almost at the 25-foot line, so would require a variance if it even were feasible for expansion. So expanding to the south is the only option. And as you can see from the facade there, the current room is a small, single window, alleged master bedroom that is tacked onto the back of the house. Simply put, there is no room for a current or future owner of this property to make any meaningful improvements to the home absent some form of variance relief. Next slide, please. This neighborhood in particular, as you'll see through some aerials in a minute, it's a place where people have added onto their homes consistently throughout the neighborhood. This is a canal front living community. These are active waterfront backyards. They're not the kind of waterfront like lake or beachfront where you expect deep, expansive rear yards. Everyone here is up close. They're looking at each other's stuff. There's docks, pools, patios, additions that are all close together, close to the seawall. The neighborhood was platted itself in 1969 and has developed since then. These houses are all different. They've all been modernized and renovated and added onto everywhere you look. And that is the character of this neighborhood. And some of these homes may have been cited in a way that they didn't need a variance to add these. Some of these did need a variance and maybe they didn't get them, or maybe they were grandfathered in. However the case, a significant number of these properties in this neighborhood enjoy expansions that are the kind that the applicant proposes, but he himself cannot enjoy on this property without relief. Next slide, please. So here is the arrows pointing out the site relative to the neighborhood, which you can see is a total mix of layouts, additions, and active backyards. And I'll show you a few kind of close-up aerials in a moment, showing that each of these houses has a unique layout and a unique floor plan. They don't all suffer from the same constraints, but they do enjoy a level of freedom in making additions that the current owner does not enjoy because of the setbacks. Next slide, please. So here are just some examples of folks that have all over this neighborhood built out their backyards. And again, you can see the active canal front living style. Next slide, please.
Yes, Mayor, where are these properties in relation to the subject property?
If you would go back, sorry. These are all within the neighborhood. I'm sorry, I don't have exact addresses for all of them, and we could pull those up if you wanted us to, but these are all within the confines of this immediate neighborhood that you see here.
Do you know if they're on cobblestone?
Some of them are, yes. And so there's a couple that I'll show you in a minute that are towards the end and the north end of cobblestone.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is 8706 Cobblestone. That is the house there too. So again, I apologize that we don't have the exact addresses. I could pull them up, but.
That's okay. So I see a lot of these homes, and you're correct, they are all shapes and sizes and configurations, it appears. I see a lot of them have swimming pools in the backyard. I don't see a lot of structures that are this tall that jut out from the back of the house toward the canal like this one will.
I believe the applicant can address the height of the structure. He's an engineer as well. And so if you don't mind, I'll bring him up towards the end of this presentation to address that and to discuss that.
Okay, and when you do that, please, because you've made the argument that there's no other space on this lot to expand, describe why it would not be feasible to simply expand to the extent of the screened-in porch in the rear, so the Florida room. So it seems, in other words, that space could be built out into a space like this or something. And the reason I'm asking this is because this is a water property on the, not waterfront, but on the back. And might a structure in this place and this tall obscure the view of a neighbor? So I just want to address that, please, in your presentation.
Understood.
Thank
And,
you.
you know, of course, as I'm sure you know, while case law does establish some review, right to a view for waterfront properties, it certainly doesn't establish an unequivocal 180-degree view. It's, if you can see the water in front of you, that is the view. If someone were to build a bridge in front of somebody's house, for example, directly across their view, that would be kind of obstructing a view. But otherwise, there's not a guarantee to just, this vast 180 to 360-degree view. But again, the applicant can address the actual design, since, I'm not the engineer, can't speak to that at
That's
this
fine.
point.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Next slide, please. Apologize, that came out a little dim, but again, this is, I think, you probably saw this view somewhere in the record, but this is standing in the applicant's backyard, looking to where additions to the, rear yard of the neighbor are made and where the structure would go. Next slide, please. And again, just another view of that window and that room that would be expanded upon, and the site plan, which is similar to a lot of those structures. And there were, and I could show them again, examples of similar structures that have been built out, some with metal roofs, but others that have extended roof lines into the rear yards.
Okay, this is the portion of the house as shown on the site plan where the addition would be.
Yes, so
attached.
the part like that you see in the red brackets kind of draws attention to
Right.
what would be added, yes.
Okay.
Next slide, please. Just want to walk through the variance criteria in particular. Unique and singular to the property. This, as you've seen, this neighborhood. Every house is different. They were built, in different times. The siding relative to the plat, to the lot, which is directly in the middle of the plat. This dated compartmentalized layout, and the constraints that exist, such as the locations of the garage, the front entry, the as-built, the floor-to-room. Everything that's already built here constrains, and of course the side setbacks are very narrow, so not a lot of room there either. Constrains where an addition could be built. You've seen the rights that are commonly enjoyed by others. It is extremely common and pervasive pattern of development throughout this neighborhood of expansions and additions to the rear yards. It is an active canal front environment where the expectation is kind of looking at everybody's stuff. Next slide, please. The side yard, the request for a side yard to reduce to from, for 4 inches is due to the fact that the side yard line is skewed, or at least the house is, as built is skewed relative to the side yard. So any extension of the house is slowly going to kind of taper in towards the side yard naturally. And the rear yard as proposed is consistent with the canal front pattern of development that is seen throughout the neighborhood. This request is in harmony with the code and the comprehensive plan. It updates a home into 21st century relevancy. Will increase the value of the home. As you've seen, this home is dated. It is old, especially with the window in the back. It really is, it's in need of a remodel, like so many of the houses here have done, and it's consistent with the character of these remodels. Next slide, please. Not a self-imposed hardship. This lot was platted and built long before Mr. Healy owned it, and the standards of living that have evolved, especially in the post-pandemic environment, are of course also not something that the applicant has created. And finally, the variance results in substantial justice. This is a meaningful improvement that will allow the applicant or any other future owner of this property to gain full enjoyment of it, results in increased value, and it promotes the existing character of this canal front neighborhood. Next slide, please. We respectfully request approval, and I would like to bring the applicant up to add a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer.
Can you please come sign in with me?
Yeah, Tim Healy, 8706 Cobblestone Drive, Tampa, 33615. How many minutes do I have?
I'm sorry?
How many minutes do I have?
Oh, 4 minutes. You have 4 minutes.
Okay, let me start.
Mr. Healy, when you, in your comments, would you please tell me what year the house was constructed? And
It's at least 30, 40 years old.
okay.
Okay. I want to just, I'm going to give my man here this thing.
All right, we need all your comments on
Okay.
on the microphone.
Okay. First of all, what I'm trying to do, if you didn't see the architecturals on this, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be state of the art expansion. It's going to It's going to appreciate the values of all my homeowners adjacent to me. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be contemporary, and it's going to go back in. What Jamie didn't address to you is the back 10 foot of this expansion is going to be lower than the roof line. So it's only going to be 14, 15 foot max. So here we got a view of my adjacent neighbor. And that white pole here is where my addition would go out to. And as you can see, when I'm looking at hers, I see a bunch of improvements. I see a shed. I see, you can't look through this thing. And notice the fence that's 6 foot tall. I'm going to put a fence, a nice one, PVC brown, that's going to be that same height. So,
Mr. Healy, is this looking at the property to the east of your property?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. I just want to, I know the rebuttal's coming from my neighbor here. So I just want to tell you, look at what I'm looking at now. When I look to the east, look at what I'm looking at. That's my view. So you have you have improvements here with a truss lattice here with the, I don't know what they got for the roof here, but you got a shed here to the south. That's my view, okay? But I don't care. I let my neighbors do what they want to do. That's me. That's what I was growing up with. You can do what you want to do. I don't care. My view is blocked to this view, and I have no problem with that. So what I want to do is improve my house. We can't do it through the patio, like you said, because the patio is 1 foot down. It would take, you'd have to fill in that finished floor, build it up. That's going to be a lot of expense. The only judicious thing to do would be to pull back where the house is at the approved finished floor and bring it on. And all I want to do is I want to create a master bedroom and an office that works for me in this this COVID pandemic society we got now. And I don't think that's a big deal because it's going to be one story. And I'm under oath right now, had 4 neighbors come up to me within the last 30 days. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing an addition." They said, "Well, what? Great, that's great." Okay, I said, "Well, my neighbor has something against it here," which, whatever. And they go, "Is it?" And I'm under oath. They said, "Is it 1 story?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "What's the problem?" They're thinking it's 2-story, that some miraculous view here would be lost. But look at the white, I want to tell you guys, look at the white fence on the other side. That's what's going to go up, brown fence on my side.
Okay. Mr. Healy, you're just about out of time and I have a couple of questions for you. Just
Yeah.
want to clarify, and I'm looking at your survey and your site plan.
Sure.
So the main portion of the proposed addition is 1 story. I understand that. And will it be about the same height then as your home? Is that correct?
Exactly.
Exactly.
And
Okay,
the
then-
last 10
then
foot,
the
the
last-
last 10
let me-
foot will be lower.
Okay, I'm asking my question.
Okay, go
thank
ahead.
you. The last 10 feet, then it's labeled here as balcony.
Yes.
All right. And that's 10 feet lower than the main portion of the addition, is that correct?
No, that'll be probably 3 to 4 foot lower than addition. That's
Okay.
going to be something where you can walk up some circular stairs and get
Okay.
up there and
Thank you. I understand. I misspoke. The last 10 feet of that will be a few feet lower than the
That's
main
correct.
portion. Okay, I understand. And then in addition to that, off the balcony, there is a chimney. Explain that chimney, please.
I wanted to do a chimney for the master bedroom.
Okay.
From my view, if my neighbor's looking or whoever, they will not see that because they'll just see the corner. What I'm saying is the emphasis should be on the non-chimney structure because you're not going to see, unless you're walking out to her boat dock, which I approved 3 years ago for a 10-foot variance. And I don't want to bring the past up, but.
That's all right, and
Okay.
it's not relevant.
Okay,
It's not relevant. Okay, what I'm
exactly.
looking at, it's not relevant to this request.
Exactly.
All right, so just one more thing. You said that it was not feasible to build in what is labeled here on your survey as a screened enclosed porch or the Florida room. It's not feasible to build your addition in that. Is that
Economically
correct?
feasible, that drops. That patio is 9 inches below my finished floor.
Okay.
I'd have to rip that up and then pour a new slab and then go out.
All right, that's all the questions I have for you. Did you have anything further? Because you've got 1 second.
Okay, thank you for my
right.
time, and
Thank
I
you, sir.
appreciate you guys for reviewing this
right.
as
Please,
usual.
please sign in with the clerk. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, Mr. Healy,
Sir?
right here. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this variance request? All right, don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance request?
Hi,
Hi, please bring the microphone down. Thank you.
Natasha Conti, 8704 Cobblestone Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you. With him wanting to put the structure out so far to the seawall, it is going to block my views of the water. And the structure is very high that he wants to do. It's going to increase his home value, but it's going to decrease my home value. Nobody wants to buy a house on the water if you don't have views. I don't want him to go out that far. I'm not worried about the side yard so much. That's not why I bought the house. I bought the house for the view. In the 4.5 years that I've owned that house, he has never lived there. So this COVID thing, no. But I just do not feel that the variance should be put in place because it's going to decrease my home value.
All right. Describe a little bit more, please, how it impacts your view. Where exactly? Of the water? Just from your backyard? From
Yes, from the backyard, from
okay.
the outdoor kitchen area.
Okay.
We would lose most of our view of the water.
All right, and your home is just to the east of his, adjacent to
Yes.
his. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My home is the last one on the canal.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much. Please be sure to sign in with the clerk.
All right.
All right. Is there anyone else here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance request? All right. Development services, anything further?
Nothing from.
Okay. And applicant, maybe you can address the view and also please confirm whether or not this is Mr. Healy's residence. Does he live there?
Sure. Thank you. I'm Jamie Mayer again for the applicant. Again, under oath, I personally have been in the house. He is a single father with 2 daughters, and there was a Christmas tree still up there when I was in the house. There were his daughter's beds. They don't currently live there, but it is in the process of being gutted. There's a lot of stuff in there. So there are bedrooms there, there's beds, and the intent is that this would be a primary residence. But because it is so old, it's so, the AC is broken. There's a lot wrong with it. And there is work currently being done there. And again, like I said, I saw bedrooms, I saw Christmas decorations. So it's not the primary residence currently, but that is, and I believe, and Mr. Healy can correct me, I can check on the property appraiser, but I believe it is homesteaded, but I can confirm that. So yes, that, currently not being lived in, but the full intent is that he will be there raising his daughters. I just want to clarify something. As you may have seen in the record, Mr. and Mrs. Conti, I advised my client, before he even submitted this application, to bring a copy of what he's planning to do with them, to get their buy-in before he would even submit this expensive request, candidly. And you probably saw on the record that they had signed a letter of no objection, that they had reviewed the plans, and the plans that they submitted into the record online were plans that he had given them and sat down with them and reviewed. They reviewed this 3 times as he narrowed down this request. So although, you know, I understand people can change their minds and only they could know what caused them to change their minds, the design that is before you today is exactly what was shown to them. We narrowed down what the exact distance was between the seawall and the actual boundary line, but the actual design and the length of the structure and the height of the structure is what they reviewed and signed off on. Again, we don't know why that changed, why it was okay at one time and why it's not okay now. And it is candidly very frustrating for my client, as he tried to be a good neighbor and had signed off on a variance for them in the past. So.
Okay. All right. Anything further, Ms. Meyer?
Not for me, but Mr. Healy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Mr. Healy, you've got just under 3 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, don't want to go into backstories here, but I did get a divorce. All this stuff is kind of pursuing upon that. But listen, I lived there half the week. That is not true what she said.
Okay.
Unless she's CIA, FBI, and they got drones here flying around. I have this house is finished. I have my kids in there, and I've been waiting for 3 years since all that happened with me on a matrimonial issue. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
So I have gotten her signatures, not twice, 3 times.
Okay.
The dock that I helped her with, I gave her a 10-foot variance. I'm just going to let you know. She needed a 10-foot variance to get her dock in on this property next to me when she moved in. I granted her the 10-foot variance from 15. That's not pursuing upon this.
It's really not relevant to
But
this
the
application.
agreement for her to help me on this was made, and that's relevant.
Okay.
So we got that verbal agreement, and we got 3 signatures from her that says she's in a positive proponent of this, what I'm doing. Now, once she signed that, I listened to my attorney, which you always do, and I expunged a large amount of money for this process. And I think, and her saying it's going to take away from her appraised value is false. When I put this up, it's only going to prove her value, because this is going to be a great thing. If you saw the architecturals, which I paid for already, it's going to be great. Contemporary thing. So, and that being said, guys, I respectfully request, I thank you for hearing me out, and I respectfully request you to confirm this request, and I thank you. That's all.
All right, Mr. Healy, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, this will close the hearing on variance 22-0955.
Our next item is item H3, application number variance 22-1038. The applicant is Catherine Vickery and John Ceballos. The request is a variance to lot development standards. Christopher Granliner from staff will provide staff findings.
Good morning, Chris Graulenard, planner with Development Services, here to present variance 22-1038. The applicant is requesting a setback variance to accommodate an expansion of a screen enclosure with a solid roof for a single-family home on a corner lot zoned RSC4. Per LDC section 6.01.01, a minimum front yard setback of 25 feet is required in the RSC4 district. The subject parcel is a corner lot with a required front yard, with required front yards on the north and east sides. The applicant requests a 12.5-foot reduction to the required front yard setback to allow in a setback of 12.5 feet from the east property line along 58th Street in the front yard, which functions as a side yard. Findings, per LDC section 6.01.06, minimum lot size of 1/2 acre of upland is required for use on the septic system. The subject property is served by a septic system and is 0.29 acres in size approximately. Therefore, it is non-conforming. However, it has been certified as legal non-conforming lot per NCL 22-1227 in the case record. Also, a metal storage container is located at the southwest corner of the subject property. The applicant has been advised the container is not a permitted use of the subject property unless building permits are obtained for it, at which time it will constitute an accessory structure and regulated accordingly. That concludes my staff report. Glad to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. We'll hear from the
Yes.
applicant.
Hi, I'm Catherine Vickery. I reside at 5709 Puritan Road, and my husband, the co-owner, John Zabios, is also here with me. We're requesting to extend an existing screen room. When we first started this process during COVID, we wanted some more additional outdoor space that was screened in from the elements. And we didn't realize that due to it being a corner lot, the existing backyard area is considered a front yard. So it has a different setback. We have a septic system that has not allowed us to extend our screen room further into the yard, which would be ideal, but we are unable to do it due to the lift pump station and the location of where the septic tank was put in 2019. We had a whole new system put in. So the side yard is really our only option due to the location. We did notify our neighbors, and we had 3 neighbors come to us to ask for clarification. We explained what we were wanting to put there. They said that was absolutely fine, asked if, they could write letters. I don't know if anyone actually did. We have an existing privacy fence along that line and a very large cactus and a large tree. So that side yard's already partially obscured with landscaping. So I believe the screen room addition would not be out of place or look odd. There are a couple of lots on Puritan Road itself that have pool cage rooms that you can see from our lot and from the road. And we live in our private residence year round. We also learned during this process that our front yard fence that was added in 2020 was over our lot line. We've removed that back at our own expense to become in compliance. And we were told by Christopher about the shipping container, which was our temporary shed solution. We don't have a garage right now, and the existing structure that was there kind of deteriorated. During COVID, we had to quickly come up with a solution. And I understand whatever, we have to either go and permit what we have now, or what we decide in the future will be permitted in that shed area. We did submit the non-conforming lot review for the septic system, and that has been approved. And as far as the screen room structure, we do want to extend it, but the portion that will be near the road will not have a roof. It will just be a screen gable. So it's as see-through as possible.
All right, this process opened up a whole can of worms for you, didn't it?
It was a learning experience.
Yeah. All right, just looking at your site plan. So the proposed screened enclosure, I see where it will go. And okay, the proposed gable, that's what you were talking about, will not have a roof.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That
Okay.
portion won't have a roof. I mean, we're extending the existing roof a little bit, but it's not going to extend out into that area. That'll just be open air.
Okay, I see.
No.
All right.
Well, the open screen, I guess.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have for you. Anything further you wish to add?
Can I add anything? Okay.
Okay, please sign in with the clerk here. Thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this variance request? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance request? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Applicant, you have 5 minutes. Did you have anything further you wish to add? Do not. Okay, thank you. That closes the hearing then on variance 22-1038.
Our next item is item H4, application number variance 22-1060. The applicant is Tony Sullivan. The request is a variance to distance separation for community residential home. Staff findings will be provided by Tanya Chapela.
Tanya Chapela, Development Services. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow a proposed community residential home type A with 6 or fewer place residents at 401 Mahogany Drive to be located within 1,000 feet of an existing community residential home type A. Per the Land Development Code, Section 61128, a community residential home type A shall not be located within a radius of 1,000 feet of another such existing home with 6 or fewer residents as measured from the property line to the closest community residential home property line. According to state licensing data submitted by the applicant, there is an existing community residential home type A at 416 Mahogany Drive that is 368 feet to the north of the proposed home. The applicant requests a 632-foot reduction to the required separation from the existing home to allow a separation of 368 feet. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chapela. All right, we'll hear from the applicant.
Hi, I'm Tony Sullivan, 401 Mahogany Drive, and I'm looking to place a group home at the facility. When I went through the process, I used the site that was sent to Search Finder to show all facilities, group homes, mental health facilities in the area, and there was nothing within 1,200 feet.
Okay. And so did you proceed and is your home operating at this time?
Not as a group home, but it is open with kids, yes, but not a group home.
How many placed residents do you have?
I don't have any place residents right now. It's just day supervision. Like they may come after school. We do programs like help with the homework. They're active members of the YMCA, life skills, help them find jobs. So it's not a residential living facility as of yet. It's just day programs.
Okay. And how many do you serve?
About 8.
Okay. Do they all come at the same time?
Yes and no. It's after school, so it just depends like what time they get out of school and what time the transportation gets them there.
I guess what I meant was your program serves all of these kids daily, and they're there 8 kids daily at your facility. Is that correct?
Yes. So they're there up until the latest is about 8:30 p.m.
Okay. And so you're proposing then to have it be an actual residence. Is that correct?
Correct. And if it becomes a residence, then it would only be 6 kids.
Okay. And would you have someone living there with them? Will you live there with them, or how will that work?
So there'll be staff there. It'll be different shifts, just say from 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. So there's always adult staff there with the kids, yes.
And how many?
Staff? It should be 2 staffs.
Okay. So that's your proposal. And again, you searched, was it a Florida state site that you searched and didn't find any other homes?
Yes, I submitted it with my variance. You have to search like 4 different ones. And that's the site that I was sent to use, and I used it and nothing came up within 1,200 feet. Had I known, I would have not purchased a house there.
And the state referred you to that site?
Yes.
Those sites? Yes, okay. All right. So you purchased the home based on that, and now you find that
there's already a group home there.
Okay.
But the group home that's there does adult disability or mental health, and I'm doing youth, so it's kind of different also.
Do you know how many residents are placed at the other?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay. But you say that it's your understanding that one serves adults?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, is there anything else you wish to add?
No, ma'am.
All right, I don't have any further questions for you.
Okay.
All right, be sure and sign in with the clerk here, please. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application?
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Jacqueline B. I'd like to speak on behalf of Ms. Tony Sullivan, opening up a residential group care facility at 401 Mahogany Drive.
All right, and please state your address on the record too, please.
My address is 20307 Ash Grove Lane. That's up in North Tampa, Florida.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
So again, my name is Jacqueline B. I just wanted to kind of bring my support for Ms. Tony Sullivan. This has been something that has been placed on her heart for some time to do, is to provide residential care for youth that are in foster care. That's the population she'll be serving versus the residential group care that's already in place. I think they service the Agency for Personnel with Disabilities. These will be 6 youth that will be, or are currently out of home placement now, without a home. So it's just not the fact that she wants to open up a group home. It's she will be providing home to the homeless youth that are in foster care. And I'm sure we all know about the youth that have been, left to sleep in office spaces, and some have spent countless hours in vehicles, trying to find a suitable home. When you have individuals such as Ms. Tony Sullivan that's willing to present herself as selfless and provide such services. When you look at the grand scheme of things, these are 6 youth that will have a place to stay, 6 youth that will be available to participate in services that will be available to them, such as the things that she's already mentioned previously, the independent living skills and things of that nature.
Do you work in the industry?
I do. I have a residential group home myself. And that's how I met Ms. Sullivan, actually, just short 4 years ago, because we showed up at a meeting and we both had the same interest. We just kind of, the youth, homeless youth, pull on our hearts.
And where is your group home?
Up in Town and Country.
And how many people, residents do you serve?
I service 6, the same as her. Actually, forgot I have 2 group homes. One is in the Riverview area, and we service 6 females, and and we're in a community as well.
And are both of them your homes? Do they both serve youth?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe your experience with those youth? I'm looking for information on impact to the community, any problems with misbehavior, things of that nature.
Absolutely. Again, I have 6 youth, and what we found, it's the youth that have been quite difficult to place, but what we've found, evidence based practice has shown that once these youth are provided that stability, they receive the services that are needed, there's a significant change in their behavior. There's a history of youth in foster care going on the run, running away. I can say out of 2 years from my group home, out of a year, about a year and a half, we've only had about 2 youth that would actually leave, and then they would want to come back because they realize nothing here. But again, we provide services for the youth, psychological services. They receive mentoring, and they also receive services throughout the community. We have organizations that link up and help with the youth. So again, these youth are finding their feet, finding their belonging in the community, and that helps again with their stability.
Can you describe any experiences with your homes that may have involved any crimes or any police calls or sheriff's calls, that sort of thing?
We've not experienced any crimes because, again, once you provide that stability for the youth and provide alternatives to crime or criminal behavior, then that tends to help them. So if I can, my pastor always say, if I can take a youth off the street and remove a gun in his hand and put a trumpet in his hand, then I've saved a life. And that's what we've seen. Some of my girls, they attend church every Sunday. Miss Sullivan does as well. I'm sure she'll have her boys there. They attend church on Sundays, and they're very involved with the church community. They're in our church marching band. We have one that signed up for robotics. So there are opportunities for these youth to do much better despite their situation and the circumstances they're in.
Okay. Again, how long have you been in this industry or in this work?
I've had the group home for about 1.5 years, but I've been doing day supervision for about 4 years now.
Okay, so before you had your own group home, you worked in other facilities?
Before I had my own group home, believe it or not, I am a registered nurse. So I worked in the medical field. So I'm a 10-year Army veteran. I'm left the military, went over to the VA, and so I'm a 25-year Army, 25-year Federal Service veteran.
And how long have you been a nurse?
Since 2004.
Okay.
18 years. So again, I do still work as a nurse, still practice as a nurse, but again, my heart is in with the children.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else you wish to add? You still have about 10 minutes.
Oh, that's about it.
You don't have to take it, but okay.
That about sums it up.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please be sure to sign in with the clerk.
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone else here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance request?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Charles Thrower. I'm at 515 Mahogany Drive, Sefner, Florida. And I just wanted to address this. I think it's very commendable what Mrs. Sullivan's doing. But there's been a group home on her street for the last 2 or 3 years. It's well known that it's there. All the residents of the neighborhood know it. There's vans outside transporting patients or clients, if you want, back and forth. It's very obvious what's going on there. It's not that somebody didn't know or something like that. Mrs. Sullivan's operation's been going on for about the last 3 months. And I've seen groups of children going to the YMCA, 8, 10, 12 children. So it's not 6 children.
Mr. Thrower, when you say you saw these children, did you see them in a vehicle or something?
No, they're walking. They walk from the neighborhood, come around, and if you look at how the neighborhood's laid out, it's a winding road, and then you get out onto Kingsway Avenue, and you walk down the YMCA. Matter of fact, I stopped them one day because one of the young men was cutting across a retention area that's fenced in by the county. And when I asked him to go back, because I maintain that property, the county's never taken care of that property. I maintain that property out front, and the fence gets torn down by children trying to cross it and such. I asked him to go back and go around like he wanted to. And instead, he climbed the fence over a neighbor's yard and started cutting through people's backyards. I asked, I believe it was Mrs. Sullivan, I asked, what's wrong with this kid? Well, I don't know. I'll talk to him later. There's a steady police presence at the home.
I'm sorry, at Miss Sullivan's home or at the other group home?
At Miss Sullivan's home. There was a sheriff deputy there yesterday. There's the traffic in front of the house. I've had instances where I can't get through. There's cars parked on both sides of the road. I addressed it with a young lady, and she indicated to me that she was picking up somebody. We were talking. A young man came out, got kind of aggressive with me, threatening. All I want to know, why is the road being blocked? Ms. Sullivan explained, hey, he's just a hot-headed kid. She came out after a while. It's commendable what she wants to do, but she's asking for a 60% reduction in a variance, not a few feet or something like that. We're talking 600 feet out of 1,000 feet. And it's not a secret that there's been a home there for quite a while. I just, a couple other little things. I don't understand how somebody can be in business for 3 months and now we're doing a variance, asking for a variance when you shouldn't start a business to begin with. And as far as the notice for the I know she had a sod put in, but they took the sign down and it for over a week, notifying people that there was a meeting. So all these things just don't line up.
Okay, you're talking about this meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and did you receive a mailed notice?
No, I have not.
And where's your property again?
515 Mahogany Drive,
Okay.
and she's at 401.
Okay.
But my concern about the traffic also is emergency vehicles coming through there, utility vehicles, garbage trucks, that sort of thing. I drive a big truck. I have trouble getting through there. I've actually on that stretch of road right there with the other home that they're parked out there at times. I've had to turn around and go another way because of the roads being blocked. And so I have a right to ask, why is the road being blocked?
The road is
in front of her home. And
did you mean the other home or Miss Sullivan's home?
well, there's been vehicles there when they're loading children or the young men in the van. They've been out there because she's right at a corner and they're at a corner.
Okay.
If you look at the property house laid out, her house is within one house of the turn there.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And
right.
Please sign in with the
All right.
clerk. All right. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Applicant?
So I would like to address all of the issues that he had concern about. We do walk to the YMCA. It's just something for the kids to do. It's a part of the community. When we walk to the YMCA, I'm with the kids, and I did say that it's about 8 kids because it's not the group home part. That would only be 6 kids. So that's something totally separate. And I have been doing it, like you said, for about 3 months in this location, but I've done it prior at a different residence for about the last 4 years. The house, the vehicles that are there now are dropping the kids off. So he had his phone and he was driving around the neighborhood recording, I guess, and they were dropping the kid, or actually they were picking the kids up. I apologize. So they were picking the kids up, and the roadway was blocked off, but he could have went on the other side. I guess he didn't want to. I don't know. He was in a regular size car, so it wasn't blocked that you couldn't get through. It was like on both sides to stay out of the road, but it was like on the sidewalks part. So that happened, and I came outside to find out what was going on, and he told me like he was filming, he had the right, blah blah blah, and that's true, he does. So I explained to him like they're picking up the kids, but if it becomes a group home or if it's approved to be a group home, there won't be drop off or transport because the kids will live there, so there's no one to block the road to drop them off or pick them up. That'll be their permanent home. The incident with the gate, we were walking back from the YMCA and one of the kids jumped the gate because they didn't want to walk all the way around. So when we still walked all the way around. So when we got around, he was outside and he asked me, hey, did you know the kid, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, yeah. And I asked him what happened.
One moment, Miss Sullivan. Where is that area where the kid jumped the gate?
So right in front of his home, he's at, I think he said 515 Mahogany Drive. So right in front of his home to the left, there's an open field, just some land there, and it's gated off, I guess, I assume, by the community, because he told me he did the fence in there because the kids had torn it down before. So it's just an empty field in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So I asked him what happened, and he did explain to me that the kid jumped the gate. He doesn't want him jumping the gates. He's replaced that gate several times. The kids are tearing it up. So when I finally got back to the house, I did address it with him, and he hasn't had that issue ever again. The police are called out to the house because, like we explained before, sometimes the kid's going to run. So as protocol, if the kid's going to run, we have to report them missing. So that's what the police were at the residence for.
How many incidents have you had that the sheriff was called to this home?
I would say about 6.
In what period of time?
The last 3 months.
And what did those incidents involve?
Just the kids running away, like they'll go on the run, like if they don't want to be at your location, or if they feel like they want to go over their friends and they're not allowed. Just different reasons they'll run.
Okay. And then that caused the sheriff to come to your home. But was anything, were there any crimes other
No.
than that committed in the
No,
community?
no crimes. Just they just go on the run, and you have to report them missing.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
Oh, and the sign. So I was going to do artificial grass at first, and that did not go well. So the county came out and put the sign up. When the guys came to resod the yard, they took the sign out. So I couldn't put it back in. I had to wait till somebody else come back to put it back in. But it was behind the mailbox, like we never got rid of it or anything. So it was a couple of days that the sign was down, but it was because they resided the yard.
When you say it was behind the mailbox, was it visible?
Yes and no. Like you couldn't. I won't tell you that you would be able to read the entire sign because the mailbox was kind of holding it up.
Okay. And did you send the public notice letters?
Yes, I sent it to everybody. I did the part and sent them out. If they got them, I can't tell you, like that would be on the United States Postal Service, but I sent them.
But that's in the record and you sent them?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. This closes the hearing on variance 22-1060.
Our next item is item H5. This is the last item in the variance section. Variance applications 22-1134. The applicant is Cypress Creek Golf LLC. The request is for a variance to accessory structure requirements. Staff findings will be provided by Timothy Lumpkin.
Hello, Tim Lampkin, Development Services. The applicant is requesting setback and height variances for a proposed golf driving range barrier net on property zone PD 73-0186. Per Land Development Code Section 6.11.04.c, accessory structures shall be permitted in front yards at twice the depth of the required front yard or 50 feet, whichever is less. The conditions of approval of the PD as modified do not expressly address setback requirements for the subject property. However, staff has determined that the required front yard is 20 feet. Therefore, the minimum front yard setback of 40 feet must be provided for the proposed barrier net. The applicant requests a 13-foot reduction to the required front setback to allow a setback of 27 feet from the west property line along Cypress Creek Boulevard. Variance request number 2 per section 6.11.04.b, accessory structures shall not exceed 15 feet in height except where the accessory structure meets the primary building setbacks of the district, in which case the maximum permitted height of the district is allowed. Staff has determined the required front yard is 20 feet and the required side yard is 10 feet. Additionally, the maximum permitted structure height is 45 feet. As proposed, the subject barrier net will be set back 27 feet from the property line along Cypress Creek Boulevard and 41 feet from the south property line, which is a side lot line and therefore meets primary building setbacks. The applicant requests a 15-foot height increase in the permitted height to allow a height of 60 feet. You'll see a graphic in there. Staff also notes there's a revised site plan. There's a Scrivener's error in item 2 where it said 25 feet required front yard. It is 20 feet, and the distance in the graphic didn't have all the distance and was amended. And that concludes staff's presentation.
All right, thank you very much. And just to clarify then, the required setback is 20 feet, not 25 feet. That's the front.
That is correct.
Thank you so much. All right, applicant?
Good morning, Clayton Bricklemeyer with the law firm Hill Ward Henderson, 101 East Kennedy. Representing the applicant, as Mr. Lampkin said, this is a barrier net. This net was designed by an industry leader with the jaunty name Cross Country Cowboy Inc., who designs these nets all over the country. It's sort of up to them to tell us where it needs to be. It's an existing driving range. It's kind of unbelievable to me that this driving range has existed this whole time without a net. I had a couple people call. Our notice was extensive. We had noticed 500 people because we had one folio and it encompassed the entire golf course. I had people call from probably close to a mile away, confused, and I would explain, and I had one guy in particular, he's like, every time I drive north on that road, I think I'm going to get a golf ball in the windshield. And I also, this is one of my all-time favorite quote-unquote support letters that I'm going to put on the record along with some others. This is from the assisted living facility across Cypress Village Boulevard. They're apparently holding our driving range ball as ransom until this net's constructed. So the hardship is obviously the use. This is a present safety issue. My client bought this course earlier in the year. The Villages at Cypress Creek Master Property Owners Association has taken this under their design criteria and approved it already. I'm putting that in the record along with some support. We have some folks from the course here. If you have any questions, I think that's all I wanted to say. Oh, the neighbor to the south, where if you're any good, that's where the balls would be traveling, is actually helping us pay for this. So, right. Yes, if you have any questions, we are available.
I don't have any questions for you. Thank you. Be sure and sign in with the clerk. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this variance request? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance request? Don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. And applicant, you get 5 minutes. Anything further? Nothing. Okay, thank you so much. That will close the hearing on variance 22-1134.
That takes us to our next section, Section J of the agenda, special uses. The first case is application, item J1, application number, special use, alcoholic beverage 22-1130. The applicant is Psycho Kitchen, Ryan Nguyen. The request is for a special use for a 2 COPR alcoholic beverage permit with separation waivers. Staff findings will be presented by Sam Ball after the applicant's presentation.
All right, we'll hear from the applicant first, please.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Nguyen, represent Psycho Kitchen LLC, and I'm a chef and owner. The address is 8741 Gun Highway, Odessa, 33556. We are seeking for a special use to COPR to accommodate our guests. With an approval, we can offer more variety of Japanese and Vietnamese beverages like sake and beer to enjoy while dining. Quite often, we have family come in and with expecting to have like sake or any type of Sapporo or Kirin Ichiban beer to enjoy, and we don't offer that, so they just left the restaurant, and we kind of losing business there. I'm a chef and owner. That's one of my dreams is to open a restaurant. We passed by this location for over 20 years and finally own this. And I didn't know that we have a restriction of the community use and asking for a reduction of about 50 feet from the community use.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Please sign in with the clerk.
Okay, I got the pictures where my restaurant is and the community
okay.
use, but which is the daycare with the arrow is way far away from us.
I see. And you can submit that photograph into the record if you wish.
Okay.
Leave it with the clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Development Services.
Good morning, Sam Ball, Development Services. There will be an amended staff report with 2 corrections on page 2. The distance separation requirements are under section LDC 61111D4 instead of 61111D2. And And under the requested separation section, there was a typo. The separation is 447 feet instead of 477 feet. The applicant is seeking approval of a distance separation waiver for a 2 COPR alcoholic beverage development permit, which would allow for the sale and consumption of beer and wine on and off the permitted premises in connection with a restaurant with at least 51% of the restaurant's total annual sales derived from the sale of food and non-alcoholic beverages. The wet zoning is requested the wet zone area will comprise a footprint of 2,593 square feet of indoor and no outdoor area, as shown on the revised wet zone survey stamped, received June 28, 2022. The subject property is zoned commercial general, which permits an eating establishment in consideration of the proposed wet zoning. The distance from the proposed structure to certain community uses is required to be 500 feet. According to the survey submitted by the applicant, the request does not comply with this requirement. The proposed wet zoning is 447 feet from Keystone Children's Academy, located at 8643 Gun Highway. The applicant requests the 53-foot waiver to the required 500-foot separation from certain community uses to allow a separation of 447 feet. The applicant's justification includes the following. There are several businesses located in between the shopping center and the community use. No live music, no outdoor seating, so the noise impact would be minimal. The restaurant has never been open past 9 p.m. The community use is a daycare center, which operates Monday through Friday and closes at 6 p.m. Additionally, the center's backyard is fenced. There are other businesses with fences in between their restaurant and the daycare center. Also, there are no pedestrian walkways from the daycare center to the establishment. The staff findings on the application are the pedestrian and vehicular route of travel from the entrance of the restaurant to the nearest entrance to the Keystone Children's Academy, located to the south on Gun Highway, is approximately 605 feet. Additionally, the segment of Gun Highway between Keystone Academy and the restaurant does not have a sidewalk. The proposed wet zoning will be limited to restaurant use and is comprised of indoor area only. Additionally, the subject premises is located near the north end of the host shopping center and separated from Keystone Academy to the south by a number of other businesses in the center. Staff has received no objections from the residents of the subdivision or from the community use or other parties. And for the reasons discussed above, staff finds the proposed wet zoning does not pose significant impacts on the surrounding area, and the necessity for the required separation from the community use is negated. Staff finds the proposed 2 COPR alcoholic beverage permit to be approvable. And that concludes my presentation. I'm open for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ball. No questions for you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this special use request? Don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this special use request? All right, do not hear anyone. All right, development services, anything further?
No, ma'am, nothing further.
All right, and applicant, did you have anything further? All right, thank you. That will close the hearing on special use ABU 22-1130.
Our next item is item J2, application number special use alcoholic beverage 22-1132. The applicant is One Up and for a special use for a 4 COPRX alcoholic beverage permit with operation waivers. Staff findings will be provided by Ball after applicant's presentation.
Hello, my name is Alex Segui. I'm the owner of One Up Entertainment. Micah Segui would do the presentation for the application.
Hi, soon to be good afternoon. My name is Micah Segui. I am the co-owner of One Up Entertainment Partners. DBA is One Up Entertainment and Social. We are in the process of developing a 25,000 square foot
If I
family.
could have you both state your address for the record.
Yes, I'm getting to that. It is 11778 North Del Mabry Highway, Tampa, Florida 33618. And that's where the 25,000 square foot family entertainment venue will be located. It's located specifically in the Main Street Shopping Center. We're seeking a 4 COP RX license with separation waiver. There's been no significant negative impact on surrounding land use. There's been no objections from noticed property owners or businesses or HOAs. The location itself has operated for at least 1 decade, if not 2, as a 4 COP in that location, most recently as a movie theater known as Villaggio, without any disruption or concern to the community. And we feel like the license will complement our venue, and the alcohol will be consumed on site with no outside seating area or interference. The structure is not within 500 feet of any community uses. Our revenue substantially is more than half of the revenue will be derived from food and attractions from the venue. Our occupancy in total is around 872 with the ability to serve 264 dining seats. And the space for the dining is well over the requirement. So with that, we are requesting approval for a 4 COP RX for application 22-1132. Thank you for that consideration.
All right, thank you. Development Services, please.
Hello, Sam Ball of Development Services. The applicant is seeking approval of a distance separation waiver for a 4 COP RX alcoholic beverage permit, which would allow for the sale and consumption of beer, wine, and liquor on the premises only in connection with a restaurant having a patron seating capacity of at least 100 seats and a gross floor capacity of at least 2,500 square feet. Additionally, at least 51% of the restaurant's total biannual sales shall be derived from the sale of food and non-alcoholic beverages. The business is located at 11778 North Del Mabry Highway. The wet zone area will cover a footprint of 21,500 square feet, all of which is indoor area as shown on the revised wet zone survey stamped and received July 28, 2022. Wet zoning is sought for an indoor leisure and entertainment facility with a restaurant that is under development in a former dinner theater. According to the applicant, there will be multiple dining areas in the facility with a total of more than 150 patron seats. The parcel is zoned Plan Developed 99-0341, which allows for the host use and consideration of proposed wet zoning. The distance from the proposed structure to the residentially zoned property is required to be 150 feet. According to the survey submitted by the applicant, the request does not comply with this requirement. There is a multifamily community zoned RMC 16 located 67 feet south of the proposed wet zoning footprint. The applicant requests an 83-foot distance separation waiver to the required 150-foot distance separation. Under the with the following justifications that the establishment will be a family entertainment center. The structure maintained a liquor license since 2013 without any disruption to the community. The structure is not within 500 feet of community uses. Staff findings are that the host use for proposed wet zoning is located at the west end of the shopping center on North Del Mabry Highway. The pedestrian vehicle route of travel from the entrance of the facility to the nearest entrance of to the multifamily property located to the south is approximately 1,150 feet in length. The host use for the proposed wet zoning is oriented to the east, away from the multifamily community to the south, and there are no public entrances or windows facing the multifamily dwellings. Furthermore, the multifamily site is screened from the proposed wet zoning by 6-foot PVC fence. Excuse me. The premises for which the proposed wet zoning is sought has been licensed in past years for COP RX use due in part to a county mapping error, which incorrectly identified the premises as being wet zoned for COPRX, when in fact the premises has had no wet zoning approval. The proposed wet zoning reflects the alcohol use that is operated on the premises will rectify this mapping error. Staff has received no objections to the proposed wet zoning from the residents of the multifamily community or other parties, and for these reasons, staff finds the proposed wet zoning does not pose significant impacts on surrounding area, and the necessity for the required separation from the subdivision is negated. Therefore, staff finds the proposed 4COP-RX alcoholic beverage permit to be approvable. That concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
Mr. Ball, just clarify, we're going to, staff report's going to be revised to correct that information in the middle of the page too, right? I don't think you mentioned that. It's, the request is for a 4COP-RX, not a 11C. And the section of the code that's applicable is 6.11.11 D4 rather than D5.
That is correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure that's on the record. Thank you so much. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this special use request? All right, don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this special use request? Do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
I know nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Applicant, anything further?
No, thank you for your time.
No, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. This will close on special use.
That will take us to our next and final application number, special use alcoholic beverage 221143. The applicant is Chateau Cellars LLC. The request is for a special use 2COP alcoholic beverage permit with separation waivers. Staff funding will be provided by Colleen Marshall after the applicant's presentation.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Stephen Baggy, 601 Bayshore Boulevard, Suite 700 for Chateau Cellars.
Okay.
Chateau Cellars has requested a distance waiver. There are two specific waivers that are needed. One is the distance from residential property, and the second is distance from other certain other wet zoned properties. This particular location is located in a shopping center in Carrollwood. This particular location actually historically was wet zoned 2COPR from 1982 to 2022. My client is a high-end wine shop that recently or is in the process of opening, and it has obtained a 2 APS license, but to get the 2 COP license, it needs the waiver. The reason it needs or would like a waiver is because it would like to facilitate wine tastings and similar events. It isn't intending to operate a traditional bar, but to serve any wine on premises at all, even for tastings, it needs a 2 COP license. Now, as I said, the property historically did have the 2 CPR, but my client isn't intending to sell food, so they're not going to be utilizing the 2 COPR wet zoning that existed. So they did move over to 2 APS and are requesting the waiver. Now, the factors that exist that justify the waiver are, one, that the residential neighborhood, which is located to the south, is separated from the shopping center by at least 6 foot to 8 foot masonry wall. I have several photos I could submit that I'd like to that create distance. There's also significant vegetation between the shopping center and the neighborhood. The actual driving distance from the neighborhood to the south to the location is, I believe it's about 4,000 feet or so. In addition, the premises faces Dale Mabry. It's located at the intersection of Dale Mabry and Barris, which is a very busy commercial area. It's consistent with the area. It will not be facing the actual neighborhood. Additionally, it's the back of the neighborhood that fronts to the shopping center. Now, the interesting thing about the shop is that the vast majority of shop actually will just be used for storage. Most of the customers will be high-end collectors of wine, and they will actually store wine in nice conditions for the customers. It's intended that there'll be basically kind of a small bar area for tastings and things of that nature. Of the 3,000 square feet, I think probably 90% of it is actually storage. About approximately 10% would be this other area. And they would anticipate never having, probably more than a handful of customers in there at any point. So it's unlikely that there'll be any sort of effect on the neighborhood. This is a very busy area. Now, there is a sort of alley or back part of the shopping center that goes around, and that is what is closest to the neighborhood. The parking for the shopping center for customers, the intent is actually on the opposite side of the plaza towards Del Mabry, away from the residential neighborhood. And I have an overhead that would show that naturally that's where people would park. Now, there are some parking spots that are behind the premises, kind of in the alley area. Though my client controls those parking spots, they intend to use that for employee parking only. My client is agreeable to a limitation of hours of operation to limit any potential impact on the neighborhood. That would be till 9 p.m. Through Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday 11 p.m. But quite frankly, they expect to just always have a handful of people in there at most for tastings, and this won't be any sort of high volume operation. They don't intend to have live music. They don't intend to have events outside. There's no outside drinking area. Simply, they want, sometimes when people are buying expensive wines, they want to be able to have opportunities to taste it and do events like that. And that's exactly why they want, why they would like to serve wine on premises. And one of the factors, yes, there are a large number of other wet zone properties in the area. However, one set or one group is in a shopping center to the south, and quite frankly, everyone over the years has received these waivers because they all kind of deal with the same issue. In the same shopping center, there's only, I believe, only one other location that's currently serving alcoholic beverages. One of the properties that was wet zone is now a bank. Another one's an auto zone parts, and another one is Jersey Mike's. There's only one other location in the premises that's currently serving alcohol. And given the commercial nature of the neighborhood, with Barris and Del Mabry, we think it's unlikely that there'll be any sort of impact on the neighborhood beyond what's already there. And the final comment is that if they simply had the 2 APS license, they would be able to operate until 3 a.m. To the extent there's any concern of noise at late hours or things of that nature. Well, by limiting their hours as a condition of a 2 COP approval, there'll actually be kind of a lesser impact at late hours compared to what they currently can do or could do. And then I'm here with Sean Johnson, who is the owner of Chateau Cellars, and I'd like to see if he has anything he'd like to add.
All right, and you said you had some overheads, and I would be interested to see those as well. Sure. Thank you.
Sure, and I can do that after Sean speaks.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Johnson. I'm the owner of Chateau Cellars.
We need your address too, please.
The business address?
Whatever address you want to put in the record.
Okay, 14821 North Dale Mabry Highway.
Thank you.
And I think my attorney's done a pretty good job here laying out the details. I think the only thing I'd like to add is the concept is really to provide reliable temperature-controlled storage for collectors. We're very well networked here in the Tampa market. And, just frankly, we don't have basements and cellars. So a lot of people have more wine than they can store at their home. It's an underserved market. There's only one other location in Tampa providing that service, and it's full. So that was kind of the cornerstone of the premise, the vision for the company. But as Stephen mentioned, when you're buying wine that's age-worthy, you like to taste it to make sure you like it. So when you pay to store it for 10 years, you're sure to get what you paid for. So It really is a very, very small area. Historically, with that being Gus's restaurant, it was probably 3 times the amount of square footage was wet zoned as a 2 COPR as what we propose to use as a small tasting room. It's a very small bar. It should see, somewhere between 6 to 8, and that would be a big crowd for what we're planning to do. And we also plan to be a good neighbor. So, if there is any opposition, or any issue in the future, they can call me directly, and we'll make sure to accommodate. So, I guess that's all I have to say for now.
I just had a question about the concept of the business, and just because I'm curious, are your clients coming in to taste wines they have purchased from you, or just that you're storing for them, or do you order wine specifically for them? What is the concept?
It's a really good question. So some of our clients will store wine that they already have in their collection, so they can transfer that from their home to our location for appropriate storage. We will also have a retail shop. So we'll order wines from all around the world and provide an opportunity for collectors to buy those wines and then either take them with them or ship them to their location, but ideally store them with us. Yeah.
Understand. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
Yes, would you like me to bring the photographs here? I have physical.
You can put them in the overhead. There's an overhead right there.
Okay.
And then also there's another microphone for you to use while you're showing the overheads. I just wanted to get a good visual of what you were describing as the road around back of the shopping center specifically, and just the general area there.
Can you see the, okay.
Yeah.
So the first photograph I have here is overhead of the shopping center. So with the highlighter here, I'm showing kind of the normal path of traffic. Now, the area behind the kind of alley is this way.
Got it. I see.
And there's that back area there. So Chateau Cellars controls this parking right here. But as you can see, there's Michael's is right here. That is that's right next to my client, which is here. So the people would generally be parking over here, and this is sort of like a kind of dark area, back area, the deliveries and things of that nature there.
Do you know where the trash receptacles or dumpsters are in the shopping center?
It would be behind. Sean? You gotta turn it on there, straight behind.
Okay, say that again in the record, please. You weren't on the microphone.
Sorry, they're straight behind our location.
Okay, thank you. There you go.
Okay. And then I just have a couple pictures of what the alleyway looks like and the vegetation. So I'll just quickly go through that. So this is a view from on the wall if you're just standing looking at my if you were just looking right at the location there from the other side of the wall, or I don't think you could see this from the residential area, but this is what you would see. And now here are just some pictures of the wall. As I said, it's at least 6 feet tall. It's the height of that truck, maybe a little bit taller, but then you can see it actually is taller than that, and then you can see all the vegetation as well above.
All right, and this photograph is taken from the shopping center side, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so here's just another view of the same. You can just see there, the highlighter is kind of where the side of where the location is, and this is just looking down the alleyway, and you can see how kind of overgrown it is actually. And then here's another area. This is just a photograph of where the employee parking will be. And then here's just another view again of the alley, or this actually kind of goes out further from the alley, but this is, again, you can see all the overgrowth and the height of the wall there. And as I understand, there's significant vegetation behind the wall. And then here's another photograph. Again, you're looking at the same thing. And then this photograph here is as you sort of approach the alley, what it looks like. You can kind of see the back of the plaza there from the restaurant that's adjoining Chateau Cellars. So that's the view towards that area there. And that where that truck is closer to where the back of the premises is. And then this last picture here is where Chateau Cellars is located in the plaza. You can see they actually have their sign up and they're doing the build out.
Okay. Thank you. That helps.
And I have nothing further this time.
All right. Please leave those photographs with the clerk when you sign in. Thank you. All right, Development Services.
Colleen Marshall, Development Services. The request today is for a distance separation waiver for a 2 COP alcoholic beverage permit for the sale and consumption of beer and wine on and off the permitted premises. The wet zoning is sought by an existing wine store, Chateau Cellars, located in the Marketplace North Shopping Center at the southeast corner of North Del Mabry Highway and Bears Avenue. The store currently has a 2 APS wet zoning approval for the sale of beer and wine in sealed containers only for consumption off the licensed premise. The wet zone area will comprise a footprint of 3,280 square feet of indoor area as shown on the revised wet zone survey received July 22nd, 2022 with no outdoor area. The applicant requests a 185-foot waiver to the required 250-foot separation from the residentially zoned property to allow a separation of 65 feet. The applicant has provided justification for the waiver as outlined in the staff report. The applicant requests a waiver to the required maximum of 3 approved alcoholic beverage permits with the same wet zone classification. According to the wet zone survey, there are 7 approved alcoholic beverage permits in the same classification. The applicants provided justification for the waiver that's also outlined in the staff report. To promote compatibility with the neighboring homes, the applicant has agreed to stop the sale and on-premise consumption of alcoholic beverages at 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. For the reasons outlined in the staff findings in the staff report, staff finds the proposed wet zoning with the proposed condition of approval does not pose significant impacts on surrounding land uses, and the necessity for the specified distance requirements is negated. Staff recommends approval with the condition and be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Marshall. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please state your name and address and then go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Ramon Carino. I live at 3715 Thornwood Drive, Tampa, Florida, 33618. I live 100 feet behind the subject property. I have a couple of issues with the staff report that I'd like to go over, if that's okay. First of all, on the first page, the wet zoning by an existing wine store. The store's not open. It doesn't have a CO, so it's not really present tense existing as we know it. It's not even opened its doors yet. Second thing on the next page, the neighborhood is adjacent to the back portion of the strip center, which is behind the front entrances to the business. Thus, there's less traffic and activity on the part of the premises that is closer to the nearby neighborhood. That might be the view from 601 Kennedy, but that's not what I see from my backyard. There's constant cut-through traffic that people use to avoid the light at Bears Avenue and Dale Mabry. There are usually 8 to 15 cars parked in that back parking lot at different times of the day during the week. That's not to mention the illegal dumping and the homeless that forage through the dumpsters at all hours of the day and night. The next thing was the staff findings. Single-family residential homes that are located within 200 feet of the proposed wet zoning are screened from the shopping center and the wine shop by an existing masonry wall and vegetation. Mr. Baggy alluded to this also. That wall is only 6 foot tall and it's woefully inadequate as a separation. Out of 4 residents that live along that wall behind the property, there's only 100 foot that's not maintained, which he took copious photographs of. I maintain that my property up to that wall, and so do 2 other residents that live along that wall. The next thing was the fronts of the houses face away from the proposed wet zoning, and their backyards are screened by the masonry wall and vegetation. This is Florida. We live in our backyards. During the cooler months, I open my lanai and allow the outdoors in. So this is in our backyard. Of the 4 residents along the back wall, 3 of them have swimming pools. So our backyards are used extensively. On page 4 or 5, staff recognizes there's a direct pedestrian connection from the wine store entrance to a small number of parking spaces on the south side of the shopping center near the single-family homes. There are 25 designated parking spaces that they are alluding to. Once patrons discover that parking lot, they will bypass the main parking lot in the front of Michael's and use that, therefore increasing the number of cars and the pedestrian traffic as well. The next point I'd like to make was, therefore, within the subject shopping center, there was only one wet zoning of the specific types, and that is actively utilized by the current occupant of the premises, Gallery Chop House. I'd like to show you that that's incorrect. There is the Ahi Asian Bistro at 14841, where every day, all day, happy hour. They serve beer and wine as well. So there are 2 just in that shopping center, not 1. Staff recognizes that all of these wet zonings could be actively utilized at the same time by future tenants of the shopping center. They alluded to Jersey Mike's and the Riviera Restaurant and the Auto Zone. There's also an OZK Bank, which is an out parcel that's also been zoned. That was inherited from the Pizza Hut that was there for over 30 years. The Chop House inherited their license from the Ale House that was there. And the Auto Zone inherited their license from a neighborhood market that was killed by the pandemic. My question is, why is all this allowed? Because these AB zonings last forever. That is why I believe that it is wrong for the county to recommend approval. And that's why I'm opposed to this change. Granting a 2 COP is a gift that will keep on giving forever. If Chateau Cellars goes out of business, the next occupant starts off winning the lottery. Unrestricted beer and wine sales with a 2 COP 6 days a week, 20 hours a day, and on Sunday, 16 hours a day. And all that 100 feet from my home. I had a nice conversation with Mr. Baggy last Monday about this, and he asked if there were any additional conditions that we might be able to come up with that his client would be amicable to. I told him there were none. And the reason were because we've had experience dealing with bad decisions that the county's made in the past. And I give you the Tilted Kilt, which is about 800 feet south of here. It's the existing Glory Days Sports Bar. And the Ale House, which is 150 feet west of the subject property, which is now the Chop House. Both of those were very bad neighbors, and we had consistently had to deal with the sheriff's office and finally had to get the EPA involved to shut down all the shenanigans at the Tilted Kilt. You see, the county approves these things and they make these zoning changes, but who has to deal with them? The residents of Brentwood. So I see this as history repeating itself again and again and again. Enough is enough. I'm not against Mr. Johnson's business. I just don't want it in my backyard. There are other locations within the shopping center, 800 feet to the north, that could be utilized for this zoning. Between the Papa John's and the veterinary care center there. That way there are no homes in that area and it's right on Bearss Avenue. You'll get plenty of traffic. My last statement I'd like to make is that one man wants to change the law, and I believe It's my understanding that over 20 residents from my subdivision submitted petitions against this change. I hope that that the county will allow the law to do its job. The law is the only thing that we have to protect us. And additionally, the final thing I have to say is, according to the survey, there are 11. This will be the 11th alcohol zoning license within 1,000 feet. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, don't hear anyone. All right, development services, anything further?
I just wanted to clarify on the record for the wet zone survey and as far as the types of licenses that are permitted within 1,000 feet. Any of the licenses that have the an R after them, the restaurant type license, or per code are not included in this grouping of wet zonings that require 1,000 feet from each other. So any of the wet zonings that are approved that are shown as with an R at the end, such as I believe the one that was at the bank, there's a couple in there. If they're specifically have the 2 COPR or 4 COPR, those are not part of the code requirement for this type of license to be separated from.
Okay, Ms. Marshall, with that, and the gentleman raised specifically the Ahi Asian restaurant, so that may be one of those that is that has an R, and so it's not subject to the separation requirement.
I believe I would have to double check on those, but that may be there was a few that were shown on the survey. There was 1, 2, 3 that were shown on the survey that did have the R designations.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with what I'd have to double check.
It's fine. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think that most likely that explains it. I'll examine those on the survey when I am researching and writing the decision. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Marshall. Applicant, did you have anything further?
No, I would just add that Chateau Cellars is committed to being a good neighbor regardless of the outcome. I know Sean will be happy to speak to Ramon or any other neighbors about any concerns they may have. The other point I'll make is I heard a lot of concern regarding people cutting through the alley and things of that nature. And I can understand why that's a problem, but that's not an issue that's an issue that seems to be created by the plaza. If there's homeless people or people doing things at hours they shouldn't be, that's unfortunate, but that's not an issue that has been created by Mr. Johnson or Chateau Cellars, and that should be something that's addressed, but that isn't something that is kind of neither here nor there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The only other thing I'd like to address is that there are other available spaces in that plaza. One of the reasons that we selected the space for Chateau Cellars was that it had an existing 2 COPR, so that it was presumed that it would be easier to then get a 2 COP, certainly for a lower usage. So I just really want to impress that it's a very, very small bar area. It's not likely to be busy at any time. It's supposed to be quiet. It's supposed to be peaceful. That's a big part of the concept. So I, as much as, Ramon, want it to be that way. So thank you.
Understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. this closes the hearing on special use AB 22-1143. And that concludes the land use hearing officer meeting for today.